And welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is Shaka from Shaka Gaming, and today we've got a really good video for a lot of you that hopefully you'll benefit from. Have you ever run into a situation where you really need just a couple extra relics, but you don't have it? And you look at your roster and you're like, man, why on earth did I put relics on that guy? Well, today's video hopefully will help you with some of that. Let's get into it. All right, so first and foremost, everybody, like I said, we're going to be checking out my personal top 10 relic regrets. These relic regrets, though, even though they might be personalized to my account, they are for general reasons that will apply to pretty much all accounts that are out there. Whether you are a new player or a old player since launch, this is going to help you in some way, hopefully, guys, in this video. So we're going to go through kind of each of the reasons that I regret these relics, and then we'll talk specifically about the characters and that situation and how they apply. So first and foremost, guys, we have, I should qualify this, that we're going to talk about some things that may not be agreed upon from all of you. I'm hoping to trigger a couple of you, maybe. We'll find out, though. So our first one that we've got, guys, is T3M4. And our number 9 one that we're going to talk about as well in the same kind of grouping is Cody. Now, immediately, I'm sure all of you were like, whoa, wait a second, Shaka. This is why I said some of you are going to get triggered, guys. Cody is a relic requirement, though, for JMK. Yes, he is. So, I put in, for 10 and 9, because I like a round number of 10, guys, I put in two specific scenarios here in terms of characters that get relics that may be slightly out of your control. So at number 10, we have a character that I never would have relicked up, except for the fact that it's included in a pack. Do I necessarily regret wholeheartedly having T3M4 at Relic 5? Not necessarily. But what I do regret is spending money on that. So, for those of you that don't know, I got T3M4 to Relic 5 because I purchased one of the Lightspeed bundles. While that's a great value, and it absolutely is an amazing value, to be clear, I'm not saying the Lightspeed bundles are a bad value and you should not look at investing in them. I think they're a phenomenal value, best buys in the game. But what would be even more amazing, and I know I'm being really nitpicky here, guys, is if we could specify which characters we got in that Lightspeed bundle. I know CG's never going to do this, but just let me cook, guys. Let me cook. How cool would it be if we could specify the characters that we got in that Lightspeed bundle? Because if that's the case, I would never have gotten T3M4 at Relic 5. Never. So is this a bit of a stretch one? Yeah, probably. But it's still one that if I could have any say at all in what I got from that Lightspeed bundle or any of that kind of scenario, I wouldn't take them. I wouldn't get them. I'm sure there are many of you out there that have spent some money on some things and maybe a character was included in it that's not so great. Just something to think about, guys. If you see a higher end character, you know, or a higher end roster, I should say, with a character like this relic, that doesn't always mean it was a good relic, to be clear. Okay, sometimes it might just because it was a part of a bundle, something like that. Or, in the case of our number 9 character here with Cody, guys, it's because he was a requirement for a unlock of some kind. Cody is one that, yes, I don't regret having JMK, to be clear, but I absolutely regret having to take Cody up to this high of a relic level. He's terrible. He has no use in the game. Even back in Lightside GOTB, where he was supposed to have his own node to work with General Kenobi, that was still terrible and didn't work at all. We all have invested in characters that are relic requirements for certain character unlocks. And when they are just a terrible character and have no benefit to your roster at all, it's a horrible relic investment. I think CG has made an attempt to kind of fix this a little bit in that, for instance, Lobot for Leia is not really a great character and was a terrible character before the rework. I do think that CG is at least trying to make some of these bad requirements a little bit more functional across the roster. It may not be functional everywhere. It may not be a great faction everywhere or team everywhere, but at least there's some usability for them to some degree. This is a character, though, specifically for me, I still see zero value in him. I don't ever use Cody, ever. It would be nice if they would do some kind of a, release with some additional clone troopers or something to bring him up to viability. Obviously, the other clone trooper as well, it would be nice to have him brought up as well to some degree. But those relic requirements for GLs, guys, they just hurt. They hurt so bad. I know it's not really avoidable if you're trying to go for that GL or that character specifically, that unlock you might be going for, where it's legendary, something like that. But it still hurts. It still hurts. All right, moving on to our next three. So we're getting more into kind of the legitimate stuff, where I have actually relic these up on my own accord, and I'm kind of sad about it, if I'm being completely honest with you. So that is none other than young Han Solo, Stormtrooper Han at 7, and this is probably the controversial one, Trench at 6. I'm sure you can all kind of understand where I'm coming from with Stormtrooper Han. Young Han Solo in particular, guys, is because I invested a lot in this prepared team back in the day, and I thought they were going to be amazing, to be quite honest with you, and it just didn't come to fruition. So my young Han Solo is at Relic 4. I don't ever use him. He might be a plug-and-play kind of a situation, or not even a plug-and-play. He might just be a filler kind of character, but if you're running a dash team, for instance, for me, he does get put in on defense, but that's only because I don't have Hondo. If you have Hondo, literally he sits on my bench and does nothing. So it's unfortunate, but all three of these characters, I would argue, are characters that had potential to be a great character and or a great team, and they just have never come to fruition. Young Han Solo in this case is simply because we've got better options than him at this point, so he just ends up sitting on the bench for me. Stormtrooper Han was one that kind of a similar situation, except that he didn't get put on the bench. He just doesn't have a viable team to go with. So young Han Solo has a viable team, but there are better options than him. Stormtrooper Han has a great kit in terms of potential with how his system works with his protection and all that jazz, but he just doesn't have that leader that really takes him to the next level. And I know what a lot of you are going to say. You're all going to say, but what about Son of Staros? Yes, I get that. And yes, he is somewhat viable there. But I think for a lot of people out there, they don't have that. It's one singular character that you have to make him viable. If you don't have that one singular character, he doesn't really work anywhere else, guys. You put him in any, like a Rolo squad, for instance, it's not really usable. There's some argument to be made that he might be okay in a Leia squad if you've got them. Yes, I get that. So is this one a little controversial? Yes. For me personally, though, in my roster where I am, this has been a backfire for me. I don't have the place to put him where he can be functional. So it's a little bit different than young Han Solo. Like I said, young Han Solo just isn't good enough to go into the team to really be that good. Versus Stormtrooper Han, for me, I don't have the team to put him into to make him viable. Some of you, that may not apply. You may have the team to put him into. I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm sure we all, as someone out there, all of you out there, have some kind of a character like this where you just don't quite have that team for them to fit into, even though you've put the relics into them. So it's a bit of a regret for me. I would rather have, for instance, these two characters, I'd rather take all of those relic levels from them and put them into Hondo. And then have Hondo available for my dash team. So yes, I know not everybody's going to agree with me that these are regrets, but for me personally, they are regrets because of those specific situations. Trench is, again, I know we're going to get some massive flack on this one, guys, but Trench is one that I put relics into primarily for Datacrons. And the issue is I still can never really run his team in full because Watt's just too good. He's too good elsewhere. And I have Bane. I could put Bane with C. And to be honest with you, I'm not even doing that very much. I'm running Bane as a leader, and C usually gets put with the other Sith, the other leftover Sith. So I'm not even really using Watt with C anymore. But where I am using Watt is with Slicker a lot of times to counter Leia's, for instance. So it's still a situation where even though, Trench theoretically can get Watt more easily than he used to with Bane coming out, I'm still not able to put that team together because I have greater viability with Watt elsewhere. So it's a similar situation to Stormtrooper Han in that I've put Relics into this character hoping that we could make use of him in a specific team. I just unfortunately don't have that team available to me to really maximize his potential. Yes, I know some of you might have that team. Some of you might be able to afford that team to make it work. So for you, it wouldn't necessarily be a regret. But for me, it is. Basically, long and short of this, guys, what I'm saying right here is if you don't have that team ready to go, and it's not the best version of that team, don't invest the relics in them, okay? That's basically what these three are right here. That's it in a nutshell. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to our number 5 and 4 characters that we have on our list, guys, here. And that is Omega, however you prefer to say that, and the Mandalorian. Now, both of these two characters are kind of related to Trench. Like I said, with Trench, it was about the team and also to some degree Datacrons. These two are very much Datacron driven. I took them up into Relics simply because I wanted to be able to put a Datacron on the two of them. Unfortunately, I haven't really seen a huge benefit from that. So Omega, especially, I would say, falls into this category. I only have her at Relic 1. I don't have her very high, guys. But she's only at Relic 1 so that I can put Datacrons on my Bad Batch team. Unfortunately, we just haven't had a Datacron for me that's really that good for them. Will that happen in the future? Maybe. But as of right now, at least, I would rather have her at Gear 8 and have the gear from her, and obviously not so much the Relic level for her, but at least the gear level required for Gear 12 to get to Relic level. I'd rather have that to put towards somebody else at this point that I'm working on currently. Now, like I said, could that change down the road? Maybe. Maybe if I get a Datacron later that's really super amazing for Bad Batch, I could possibly do that. But here's the factor that goes into this, guys. At Relic 1, a faction-specific Datacron isn't going to work. That's what stinks about this. I have to get her to Relic 3 if I actually really want to see the benefit of that, even from a faction standpoint. So I'm kind of caught in limbo. Do I keep her down at low gear levels and just either not use her at all? Or do I take her all the way to Relic 3 and hope that a Datacron comes out that makes her more viable? In either case, I'm kind of stuck in the middle, and it's really not a good use of that character's relic investment or gear investment, more so in this case. So be aware of that, guys. Unless you're really going to take the entire faction up to high relic levels and have the entire faction be super functional, this is one I would stay away from. And in this situation specifically, obviously, I would stay away from, guys. The other one, the Mandalorian, this one's a little bit more debatable because, yes, he definitely benefits from having more relics. He's just thicker, he's tankier, he's harder to kill. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But what I do miss is the fact that with him at Gear 12, for instance, he could do everything that he does at Relic 5. There's really no difference with him in terms of what his functionality is at Gear 12 and Relic 5, or Relic 8 for that matter. It doesn't matter. He still does the same thing no matter what Relic he is. The reason for me, similar to Omega, that I took him up to Relic 5, though, was because of Datacrons. So for me personally, I wanted to be able to run a bounty hunter / scoundrel cron that had him at Relic 5 so that I could apply that Datacron to an entire faction. I took him up to Relic 5 back when the relic requirements for Datacrons, guys, was 3, 5, 7. So I just did this exclusively so that the bounty hunter / scoundrel faction could get that faction-based ability. They have since nerfed, I won't say nerfed that, they've since brought that down, which was a great move, CG. I'm not saying that was a bad move. They've brought those levels down to 1, 3, 5 now, and Mandalorian here could benefit from a specific Datacron. And they have currently in the game a Datacron for him specifically. But you know what the problem is, guys? The Datacron sucks. Like, the way that Datacron is designed is it ruins his whole turn meter concept that you have him. You have to clock that team. For those of you that don't know, check out a Bounty Hunter faction breakdown on how that team works with the R lead and everything. You have to clock the team very, very, very specifically, and that cron ruins it. So yes, I benefit to some degree if he's at Relic 5 because I can apply this Datacron and I can have it happen and work. But at the same breath, it's a terrible Datacron and I don't want to use it. So it's just, it stinks. Ideally, I think for me, I would rather have him be at Relic 3 simply so I could have the faction-based relics and not necessarily need him at Relic 5 because his Datacron specifically is not very good. In the future, could that change? Absolutely. Similar to what we talked about with Omega. Maybe the Datacron will be good in the future and I won't regret the Relic levels at that time. But for me, at least now, Relic 3 was really all I needed him at. I didn't need to take him all the way to Relic 5, unfortunately. And I even regret kind of to some degree the days of being able to just take him in at Gear 12 and just wreck people like Darth Revens and Adrads and things like that. It was just so satisfying being able to do the same thing at Gear 12 that you do at Relic 5. So I know that's a small thing to complain about, guys, but it is still kind of a relic, legitimately, especially taking him to 5 versus 3 in particular. All right, moving on to our top 3 regrets with relics, guys. And these, I think, are very, very legitimate. I know what I've said so far is a little bit more nitpicky, shall we say, and probably specific to my account. These last 3, though, I think will apply to everybody, and they are very specific in why they are not great relic investments. So the first one we have here is Chrysanthemum. We'll detail him specifically here in a moment. Basically, the issue with Chrysanthemum is that his thickness doesn't really change the outcome of a battle. We'll talk more about that in a second. At number 2 and number 1, we have 2 of my favorite characters in the game, unfortunately, but I still regret the relic levels on them. Cat and JMK, guys. Same situation with Chrysanthemum here. Their relic levels, yes, it makes them better. I'm not saying that it doesn't. But the problem is that... sorry, let me show you guys that screen. My fault. The problem with that is that it doesn't really change the outcome of the match. So let me show you guys Chrysanthemum first and kind of get into what I'm talking about with Chrysanthemum here. So my Chrysanthemum is a Relic 8, and I do have the Omicron on him. So the Omicron is why you would take him up to a higher level Relic, guys. Basically, his Omicron increases his thickness, is what it comes down to. And for you to really benefit from that Omicron, you need to have him as thick as possible. I would almost argue that my problem here with Chrysanthemum is that he needs to be thicker. He needs to be Relic 9 to really see that full payout because of that massive increase in protection that he receives from Relic 8 to Relic 9. The problem is, at least currently how we sit in GAC in particular, teams that are beating Jabba, they're not beating him or beating that team because they're able to overcome his thickness. They're beating the team because their kit allows them to bypass Chrysanthemum. So for instance, Afra is bypassing him pretty easily. JMK, the whole concept is you early ult and bypass him entirely. The exception to that rule is if you have the no revive cron from Scoundrels, then you can eat him. But even then, if that's the case, these relic levels don't matter. So it just kind of stinks because we're no longer in the point with Chrysanthemum and Jabba where timeouts are a real thing and become effective. So he's just really completely lost that value. You just need him and his kit essentially there with the correct team to get the effectiveness out of him. It's not the relics that make the difference here. Back when we had thick crons, that might have been a little bit more viable, but even then I would argue it wasn't so much the case. I don't know. Am I stretching on this one, guys? I don't think I am. Let me know in the comments below. But the top 2, like I said, guys, Cat and JMK, I put these were actually my first two Relic 8s that I ever did in the game. And it's because I just love the characters so much. JMK was my first ever GL. Cat is probably my favorite character ever. Like Season 7 Ahsoka is probably my favorite character ever. So I've gone big time on these two. The only reason I wouldn't go to Relic 9 is because it would be a total waste because they're not tanks. But both of them really don't benefit that much from having that extra relic level. JMK especially. JMK is completely dependent on his kit, and his kit has nothing to do with his relic levels. You really do not benefit much at all. Yes, you could argue he gets a little bit more damage because of that. He stacks more damage because of that, and so he gets a little bit more of an output in terms of offense. That's still pretty minor. The same thing is true with Cat. Yes, she shares her stats. Yes, she can gain some more offense because of that. She can stack her damage a little bit more over time. Yes, there's a benefit of having them at Relic 8, guys. Yes, I'm not saying there is not a benefit. But what they can do at Relic 7 is the same as what they can do at Relic 8. It's the same thing with Kanan. What Kanan can do at Relic 7 is the same that he could do at Relic 9. Quite frankly, what he can do at Relic 5 currently is the same as what he can do at Relic 9. Again, this is all subject to change because of datacrons. That could come down the road and be a totally different story. But generally speaking, without datacrons, they're just... You're better off putting those relics somewhere else. For instance, someone like Bane, or someone like Malicos, someone that has damage or health or aspects of their kit that benefit them based on relic levels, Ray, or just general stat improvement. Again, I know that Kat does have some of that built into her kit, but it's not a game changer. It doesn't make that big of a difference versus someone like Bane would make a big difference with his relic levels, and Ray makes a big difference with her relic levels. So, yeah, it's a tough situation, guys, because of that. I know a lot of you may not agree with me on that. A lot of you may think that, no, it's still a worthwhile investment, and I'm not saying it's a terrible investment. I'm just saying that it's something that if I'm being really, really efficient with my roster, that I'm probably better off not putting those relics in on those situations. So again, you can kind of see our recap here, guys, with what our top 10 were down below. I'm intrigued to see, do you guys think I'm totally bananas on a lot of this stuff? Do you think that I kind of hit home with you on some things? Especially, like I said, the reasons why I regret the relics, not so much the characters specifically, but the reasoning behind why I regret those relics. Hopefully, that hit home with you guys a little bit, and you can benefit some from me putting this video out, everybody. Like I said, let me know in the comments what you guys think, if there's characters that you think fit better on this list than what I currently have, and or if you think there's other situations that I missed out on that should also be reasons to not relic characters. I'd really be intrigued to hear that from all of you guys out there. Last but not least, everybody, if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure that you guys turn on your notifications. Make sure you like the video, but most importantly, guys, what I need you to do is make sure you subscribe to the channel, folks, please. We are currently just under 100 subscribers away from being monetized here on the channel, guys. I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel, guys, so that we can get some benefit from putting in all this effort and take some of that benefit away from YouTube, because YouTube's getting all the benefit right now. I'd really appreciate it, guys. It would mean a whole lot to me. With that being said, everybody, if you want to continue your journey down that Swugga rabbit hole, guys, and learn more about Swugga and get better at Swugga, make sure you check out the next video.